All right, James Oliver, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So you are do you call yourself the founder, the CEO, of Atlas Bar?
I like founder. I just go, yeah. I mean, I am the CEO as well, but I like founder.
So I did a little bit of bar research, protein bar research, and the Power Bar was kind of like the original. That was the OG in the space. And I remember I was in high school in the late 90s, and my cross country coach said we should be having these power bars, these energy bars. And man, it was like an ultimate flex, because not only did you identify as an athlete, but you had the tenacity to finish eating that peanut butter tire. It was just brutal.
Yeah.
So that one started off, and then the Cliff Bar was in 92. High protein bars started in the 2010s. And so now there's just a ton of bars out there. So when did Atlas get started?
You really did I commend the research that you've done. You really dug deep. I didn't even know those dates. I knew the general, like the beats, that Power Bar was first and then Cliff was soon after that. But Atlas was 2018, so far after all those other companies came. But I grew up also having power bars when I would be hiking. So I was in the Boy Scouts, and I would have a lot of power bars and Cliff bars too. So that's what I kind of was raised on.
Mm-hmm. It was interesting when I also look back, and I don't know which exact bar this was, because there were a couple flavors. There was like the original, but that bar that started in 86 or in that area, it had 230 calories, which is kind of I wouldn't say high end, but about right for a lot of the protein bars that are out there now, usually between 200 and 230, 250 calories. Had 20 calories from fat, and only had 10 grams of protein, which is interesting because the modern iteration, I guess it was marketed as like an energy bar, but now like the protein bar, that's the main thing. And you guys have 25, 26, how many grams of protein do you have in yours?
We have 20 grams of protein and 1 gram or less than a gram of sugar. About like depending on the flavor, 200 to like 230 calories. And most of the calories actually come from the nut butter. We use a nut butter base, either almond butter or peanut butter. And since that's primarily a fat, every gram of fat adds 9 calories versus grams of carbs and protein only add 4 calories. So the more fat you have, the higher the calorie count.
Right. So what was it about the space that made you think, okay, there's a lot of bars out there, but it's not being done quite right? So what was it about the market that made you want to enter the space and have your own bar?
It was, I really didn't like seek to start my own business. I really just wanted it for myself. Like truly, I was in college at the time, and I was having a lot of bars. I was probably having like 2 to 3 bars a day. And I really went through all of the kind of iterations. I drove across the country in a Prius over like 4 weeks when I was 18. And I remember having Cliff Builders bars, which was a protein bar that they have like multiple times a day, 2 to 3 times a day. I would have pure protein in college between classes. And then RX bars came out and Quest bars came out. So I really like went through everything. And all I wanted was like, wow, it would be nice if you could get something that had good nutrition, like high protein, not a lot of sugar, but that was made with ingredients that were like real plain ingredients. And shockingly to me, it did not exist. And I was like, I would think that this seems like a very simple thing, and I would think that it would exist. It didn't. So I just made them really for myself first and foremost. And actually what I told myself when I made them, because I was 22, I didn't have any experience in this space. I had no team. It was just me. And I was like, well, the worst case scenario is that I'll make 5,000 of these, because I was working for the manufacturer, and 5,000 was the minimum that you had to make. And I would like, the worst case scenario is that I make these and nobody buys them, and then I will just have to eat all of them. And because I made them like I was the first customer, I was like, I'm okay with that outcome.
What was your major or whatever in college? Because people have ideas, but they don't actually pursue them. So when it comes time to, like, I'm going to have these thousands of bars, most people that would be the ending point, or unrealized ideas. So how in the world did you actually follow through with this? And was it related to your major? Were you an entrepreneur as a little kid?
I had like streaks of entrepreneurship as a kid. I think the first thing that I did was I I actually asked my parents for like a $500 loan so I could buy this card there's a video game that I played a lot. And there's this specific card that sold for like $800 or $900. And I saw on eBay that it was being sold for like 500. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I could buy that and then sell it for like 800. But I didn't have, as a 9-year-old, I didn't have $500. So that's what I did. I asked them for it and then I bought it and then I resold it and it works. And then all throughout college, like I had a landscaping business. I sold knives. I drove Uber and Lyft all throughout college. So I was always doing stuff. I just like the idea of generating money because to me, money is not for like material purposes, but I just like that you can really have freedom over your own time once you have enough money. And that was the other reason why I wanted to start my own business because I would rather work for myself and make far less than work for somebody else. Not because not because I have any like issue with authority or anything like that, but time is the most finite resource that we have. And it's important. It's so important to me that I get to choose how I spend my time. So yeah, I started it when I was still in college. I was an economics major. And the week after I graduated is when I got those 5,000 bars in. And I remember looking at them in my parents' living room and I was like, all right, you gotta move these somehow. And so it was very, very just like roll up your sleeves. I just started driving around to gyms in the Boston area and I mapped out like all of the kind of like CrossFit functional fitness gyms. And I just literally would go to them in the middle of the day and just be like, hey, would love to like set up a table and just kind of give out these bars to your members if there's like a class that I could do that for. And then if they like them, then we can maybe talk about you carrying them, something like that. And I would just do that all throughout the middle of the day. And then I would Uber on the back and the front end of that to make additional money to put back into the company. So I wanted to work hard. I know what I want to do. I know I wanted to work hard, whatever I did. And I was just prepared at that point in my life to go all in on something.
There had been some times of struggle or people were saying, hey, this is okay. It's not a great one. Or, hey, we're not interested in the bar. How did you handle those early? There had to be enough success for you to keep pushing forward, but there probably was some failures in there too. So how did you get through those?
It's definitely hard. I would say when people ask me like, what's the hardest part about starting something, I would say the hardest part is managing your own psychology, especially if you're doing it alone. Just getting up every single day and being like, man, it's all on me. Like I can choose to just stop doing this today if I wanted to. And the only way that this keeps going is if I choose to keep going. So actually what I would do is when I was like feeling down, if somebody like was like, this isn't that good, whatever, when I was feeling down, I would actually go to the grocery store and I would buy bar from like a competitor that I knew was doing like a lot, like selling like hundreds of millions of them. And I would try it and I'd be like, man, this isn't that good. Like if they can sell 100 million of these, I can sell like, I can sell like a million of these. Like, so I would basically like make myself feel better by just like trying what was out there and being like, if this can be commercially successful, then there's no reason that Atlas can't be.
Mm-hmm. There's marketing is so important. There's a lot of times that people will share things that it's not really that good, but for some reason it hits. And does it make you doubt like part of the public that they would choose something collectively that just really isn't that good? And do you kind of wonder how that happens or how you get those? I think Malcolm Gladwell refers to them as like the connectors or whatever when you're looking at things that start to go viral or whatnot. How did this shape how you viewed marketing and people?
I think that's a very astute and very good question because especially in the day and age we live in with like short form video, TikTok, Instagram, I think there's a lot more opportunity for that, for these kind of pulses to happen in culture where something gets really hot for a short period of time, but then it falls off. And I've seen that happen so many times where people will almost be like in a frenzy about something like CMOS or something like that. And it'll come, but just as quickly as it comes, it'll go. And so my perspective that I'm probably a little bit too extreme on this, is that the best form of marketing is having a great product. Because if you have a great product that is truly solving an issue for somebody, they're going to keep consuming it and they're going to tell their friends, like you're going to be like, hey, this thing's like great. Like that the best type of marketing by far is word of mouth marketing.
Hmm.
When you're just like, when Jeff's like just hanging out, you're out there and you're just like, man, I have this thing. This is awesome. And if you think to like your own experience, the recommendations or the products that you hear about that are most influential are probably from your close circle telling you about something. It's usually not some ad that you see on Instagram or something you see on the TV. It's usually somebody who you care about or who's close to you and says, I had this thing, it was great. And then you're like, oh man, I should. And then you look into it because this person who you know has like, they're not on commission, probably. They
Yeah.
might be, but probably not. But they have no ulterior motive for telling you besides they just really think it's a good product. Whereas when you're online, when you know that all these other messages that are being pushed to you, it's either a company who's paying to push them or it's somebody else who's being paid by a company
Right.
to push them. So I really just try to make a great product, communicate it clearly, and then let our customers just spread the word about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people have really caught on to knowing what it is when you see a product that's being pushed at you. Before it was maybe you were impressed by this marketing or you're impressed by this spokesperson, but now there's just bombarded with it that a good, honest, like Matt from San Diego, like is there really someone named Matt from San Diego who did this review or whatever? I mean, it's who knows, and we're all kind of onto that. So I think that's in all spaces, that advertisement. It's been pushed out so that authentic review or someone that you know that actually has it, I think is, like you said, very important.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's really like the thing. It's like, sadly, as you said, there aren't many modes that you can like completely trust. Like even reviews that you read online, like you have no way of knowing 100% that that is a real review. And I know Amazon has like a huge issue with this, with fake reviews. They have an entire like team, thousands of people who are basically dedicated to combating fake reviews. So the fear or the hesitation, the suspicion around reviews is well warranted. It's not people being paranoid. Like there are a huge amount of fake reviews out there, and the messages you see online, like they're usually incentivized. So in person, like recommendations are kind of like the last thing that really aren't corrupted. Again, probably unless your friend is on commission, probably not. But I think that's why they're so powerful, is because you probably aren't thinking about it consciously, but subconsciously you're like, yeah, I don't think that Jeff is getting anything out of this besides just wanting to share something that helped him out.
Yeah. So as far as the bar itself, when you're putting that together, you wanted to go low sugar, you wanted to have quality of ingredients. Was there a temptation where obviously if you increase the sugar, it might taste better, which is why everybody's like, oh, this is a delicious bar and it has this many calories and it has this much protein. But that taste oftentimes comes from the sugar aspect. So in order to keep that low, how did you stay true to hey, we're going to go good ingredients, we're going low sugar, no added sugar, and we're going to be as far from a Snickers bar as possible. And that's exactly what we want to do. How did you stay true to that?
Yeah, it's another great question. And I think what we have now is we have a lot more tools in the toolkit that people even did like 10 years ago in terms of ingredients that you can use. So when Power Bar came out, you didn't have a lot of like the sweeteners that we have now. Like you can use sweeteners that are 0 calorie, but that are completely natural, which is one of the ones we use. We use monk fruit. It comes from fruit called the monk fruit, and it's just super, super sweet. I think it's like 200 or 300 times sweeter than sugar. So you only need to use a tiny, tiny amount of it, but it's completely natural. There's no known negative side effects. So there's no downside to using it, but you do have to, it just requires being more creative with that formulation, because unlike something like sugar or high fructose corn syrup, these things that a lot of formulators are like they're very known, they're commonly used, so they know how to use them. A lot of these newer ingredients, they just don't have kind of a playbook for using them. So you have to just do a lot of experimentation to figure out how to use it. And definitely makes it a lot harder. But when I did start, I thought about, instead of thinking about like what trends can I hit with this, I was just thinking about, okay, what do I think is not going to change in the next like decade? And I was like, I'm pretty sure that people are not going to be like, hey, this is great, but I just wish the ingredients were more processed. Like I just wish that they would use like more artificial ingredients. And then I thought the same thing for sugar and protein. I didn't think that anybody would ever be like, hey, this is great, but I just wish instead of 1 gram of sugar, they had 10 grams.
Mm.
And with protein, like protein is the one ingredient that's never really, or the one macronutrient out of carbohydrates, fat, and protein that's never really been like demonized. Like carbs have been demonized, like low carb diets, fats have been demonized, low fat diets. There really haven't ever been any like low protein diets unless you have like very specific dietary needs, but as like a mass cultural thing. And it's because protein is, if you go on a low protein diet, you're going to have some like very severe nutritional
Right.
deficiencies, which is not necessarily as true with the other nutrients. So I was just very certain that those three things, low sugar, high protein, and clean ingredients, were going to be as true when I started, as true in 50 years as they are today.
Mm-hmm. So did you start off with monk fruit being your sweetener? So you launched as soon as you graduated pretty much. So as a senior in college, are you like messing around with these ingredients and like you went to the store and got a monk fruit and like, dude, this is going to be my sweetener. How did you come upon that?
It's a great question. So initially we started off making, and I say I had my mom help me out because she's very good with anything culinary. So she helped making the initial recipe in the kitchen. And then I decided we're not a food manufacturer. Let's go find a manufacturer that can help make this recipe at scale. So they were the ones who made those 5,000 bars. And when I went to them, we had to make some modifications because making 12 bars in your kitchen is very different than making 5,000 bars on machines. So they helped kind of like dial in the formula to get it to where it would run at scale on machinery. I mean, we've actually, when I launched it, the sweetener was stevia, I believe, and the macros were 15 grams of protein and 3 grams of sugar. So we've actually, over the years, we've increased the protein from 15 to 20, and we've decreased the sugar further from 3 down to 1, and we're trying to get it even lower than that. So that's kind of part of like our continuous improvement, how we've just always tried to iterate and make the product better and better and better, as opposed to just putting something out there and be like, all right, we're good with the product. Like nothing else you got to do there. Let's just focus on selling it. I think that if you stop trying to make whatever you're selling better, others around you are going to continue to do that. And so you're going to be, by not moving forward, you're basically going to be moving backwards because others are moving forward.
Mm-hmm. So you got a really good nutritional profile. Where or how do you address taste and texture? You could have something that tastes delicious, but there's something about the texture, and that was the old power bar was, man, you're just going to get through it. It's going to take you 3 days, but man, just got to get through it. And now we don't have to deal with that. So texture and taste, how do you address those things?
That's actually something that I changed my perspective on, because initially I was like, you know what, I'm going to put like the nutrition and like the attributes of it as the number one priority. And you can do that. And there definitely can be successful products that kind of prioritize that above taste, because there always will be people who are like, you know what, I don't really care how this tastes. I'm consuming it for the benefits that I get from it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to taste what it's going to taste like. But that's going to be a sliver. Like you're going to limit yourself, because that's just going to be kind of a tail of the market. So it's a challenge. And I think what we focus on now, because we have a much more limited toolkit than a lot of food companies, because once you take the position that we're not going to use artificial ingredients, we're not going to use all these ingredients, the universe of ingredients that you can use to make your products shrinks from like, say it's 100 down to like 15. Like you can use a lot less because so many ingredients in our food system are processed and artificial. So what we try to do is we try to focus on getting the best inputs we can. So we try to focus on getting like a really good quality peanut butter. You would think that all peanut butters are the same. They're definitely not all the same. We've tried like probably a dozen different peanut butters, and it's shocking how much like the ingredients will say the same, the nutrition facts will be the same, but just based on where in the country it comes from, how they kind of mill it into peanut butter can completely change the flavor profile. Mm-hmm. So to try and make it have like a real food flavor profile, we just try to be very specific about the inputs and make sure that we're getting really high quality inputs. And some of our products, like we just launched a salted peanut butter product. There's no additional, like there's no flavor additives, nothing else. It's purely just like peanut butter and salt. Like it's very, very simple. Some of the other ones, we do need to use additional like flavor extracts, because it's really hard to say for like a chocolate. you can use like cocoa powder, which we do, and you can use like chocolate liqueur, but to really get a punchy chocolate flavor, you do need to use like a concentrated like
Yeah.
extract that just to give it that extra like oomph. But for some of them, because the ingredients we've chosen are so just like robust, we don't need to do that at all. But it's definitely a challenge,
Yeah.
especially when customers are certain consumers are expecting they've been like conditioned by the food system to expect everything to taste like sweet and salty and fatty because that's what most foods are. When they have something that's like made of real food like Atlas, it tastes different to them, which is kind of backwards because that should be what they're attuned to, and the other stuff should be like the exception.
Yeah. Yeah, I have that. The peanut butter salt one it's pretty good. I like you have those that they're very clear and they're like an authentic, even though the taste of peanut butter can vary, like you said, it definitely tastes like a peanut butter and then the salt's good. So it's a great mix. When you talk about the chocolate, that's got to be difficult because a bad chocolate tastes like a bad chocolate. There's like this very specific expectation if you're getting like a variety of dark chocolates or milk chocolate. If it tastes like an off chocolate, you're ruined because
Yeah,
you can't fake
100%.
that. It tastes like an off chocolate. It doesn't taste like a new iteration or a better nutritional version. Like it's got to taste like chocolate.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to get actually, while we're on chocolate, to give you an example of like how kind of distorted I think a lot of people's perceptions are because of what's been presented to them. Hershey's, I believe Hershey's chocolate, if you look at the ingredients and the nutrition, over 50% of Hershey's chocolate is actually sugar. So it's actually more accurate because the number one ingredient is sugar and over half of it is sugar. It's more accurate to say this is a sugar bar that is flavored with chocolate as opposed to chocolate.
Yeah.
And I think it's like if you look at the reports, it's actually like only 13% chocolate, like a Hershey's bar. It might even be less than that. So people's like expectation for chocolate is just so distorted because if you have a Hershey's bar and then you have actual chocolate, something that's like 100% chocolate, you're like, whoa, that tastes bad.
Yeah. Yeah, the if you look at some of those bars, and I used to eat the Cliff Builder bars, and those are good. But then you take a bite into it, and then you look at it, and you think, okay, well, there's the protein part, and then you've got the puffed rice, and then you've got the chocolate. Like this is a sliver of or one layer of protein surrounded by candy bar. And you trick yourself into thinking this is better than a Snickers, and it's very comparable. It's probably closer to the Snickers than it is something that's a lot healthier. You did an experiment where it was kind of the super size me challenge type thing, but you did it where you just ate your own bars. How long did you do that?
Yeah. So the purpose of that was I wanted to, it frustrates me when companies sell products that they don't believe in because I'm just like, what, what are you doing? If you yourself are not going to regularly consume this, then why do you feel it's right to sell it to other people who are going to consume it presumably on a regular basis? So in order to show that we actually believed in the product, I was like, okay, what could I do? And I was like, well, what if I only ate our bars for a week? And I was like, I could do that, but that's honestly like not that challenging. And so to add another layer to it, I was like, well, what if I ran 100 miles to make it more entertaining and I only ate our bars doing that? So that was the challenge that I did. Over 7 days, I ran, actually 6 days. I was able to finish a day early. I ran 100 miles. So it was like 17 miles a day. And I only had bars during that. And it was like something around like 80 bars, somewhere around there. And yeah, I finished. And I don't know if it had its intended effect, but I was glad that I was able to do that and just show that, like, document the fact that, yeah, the person behind this is somebody is really like the number one consumer of this.
Mhm. Are you a runner? Like, do you typically run that much?
For that, I actually did, I didn't really train for that. I just kind of went into it. I I've done a lot of like it's funny, I wouldn't really call myself like a runner or even an ultra runner, but I just was looking at this the other day and I've technically done like 14 or so events that are over 30 miles. I've done only one marathon. So most of the stuff that I've done is just kind of longer distance. And the reason that is I enjoy just pushing your body and your mind. And for me, I found in order to do that, I just need to go those longer distances in order to get to the space where you really are like where every step is just it's not fun. And I like that distance because I always, as I like have told myself many times when I'm in these situations, like, okay, can you take another step? Yes. Unless you're like horribly, horribly injured, you can probably always take another step. And if you can take another step, then you can take another one and you can just string them together into 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 steps. So yeah, I think I had a good base from that stuff that I've done, but I didn't specifically train for it.
Mhm. What were your cravings like? Because I know that I do mostly. I used to run. I did a couple marathons in my 20s, but now most of my activity is outdoor hiking, fishing, camping, and so we're going on 3 or 4 day hunts, and we have a lot of bars. And then I get a craving for like a smash bar or a smash burger. So like when you were doing that running, we're like, dude, let's just knock out 30 miles today. Let's be done with this and have a smash burger. Or what were your cravings when you were eating that?
Peanut butter and jellies are always like a go-to for me just because they're just like so basic. It's something that just feels really good about we just run, I don't know, 10, 20 miles and you can have peanut butter and jelly. It just kind of has everything you need. I did also do, I did a challenge. Again, I like to do this stuff for fun where I was like, okay, let me take the number 50 and let me try to get there between some combination of beer, donuts, and miles. And so you can get there through any combination you want. And so I ended up doing 32 miles, 17 donuts, and I had one beer at
Mm,
the end just to check that box. So donuts are another one that they go down easy because they're so simple.
yeah, yeah. So what's next as far as growth, as far as goals, as far as where are you taking this thing, or what's on the horizon?
So there's a kind of a place that we've identified we can really push the company that I think is important to do. And I think more companies need to go in this direction, which is really about creating food that not only is not damaging to people's health, but that helps almost like protect it in a way. In our country right now, we have a a health crisis of unprecedented proportions in the form of a metabolic health crisis, where I think over 100 million people, over 1 in 3 or at 1 in 3 people have either diabetes or pre-diabetes, and the number continues to increase. And I'm sure there are a lot of different explanations for it, but I think the largest driver is the food system and the food that we have consumed and that we have for the past few decades. And then that basically, if you have that type of food for a few decades, you end up having a population that has really bad metabolic
Yeah.
health.
And the
So,
lack of exercise. What is the recommended
yes.
daily is or weekly is 150 minutes and only like 20% of the population. That's insane. I tell my students that and I said, you are getting this at one practice at basketball. Can you imagine as an adult not getting that in a week? It's unbelievable. And then such a massive portion of our population is not getting that. So no exercise plus no great food. Like, yeah, it's not a surprise.
Yeah, it's a brutal, brutal combination. And yeah, as you know, like somebody who's as active as you, if you go on one of those hunts, one of those hikes, you're knocking that out in like a morning. You're doing 150 minutes
Yeah.
in a morning. So yeah, the combination of having basically a lifestyle, a culture that's extremely sedentary, you can just leave your house, hop in your car, drive to work, you sit, and then just drive back home. Like you don't, we've created kind of a culture where you don't really have to move in order to survive. And when you combine that with the food that you consume, it's kind of obvious why we have the issues that we do. And to fix it, you have to start changing what people eat. Not by I think a lot of efforts have been like you should eat better, like trying to almost like shame people into eating better. And I think a lot of the onus actually is on the food companies. Well, like you should make better food products that don't have 50 grams of corn syrup in it
Right.
that is going to cause somebody's blood sugar to go to the moon when they have it. So I think that's a place that I'm looking to kind of take the company because we actually did just wrap up a clinical study and we showed that Atlas compared to a slice of white bread, it had 77% lower blood sugar response. So it
Whoa.
has a really, really low blood sugar response because it's basically just like fat, protein, and obviously not a lot of sugar. So whereas like a roller coaster would be like a piece of bread where you go right up and you come back down, and Atlas is just kind of this like little bump. So I'm excited to do more with that and to basically take that Atlas philosophy into different formats.
You'd think that a piece of bread would just be like a nothing thing. But yeah, the amount of, I don't know if I read somewhere or heard it on a podcast or something, but the bread that we have over here, there's so much sugar in it, it would be considered a pastry over in Europe. And that's, again, like getting the sugar, getting that brain on the sugar. And why does this taste good? I had a student talk about having a scone and loved scones and thought the Starbucks made the best scones. And I thought, whoa, you just can't, there's no way that you've really had or maybe it was a croissant or something like that, but Starbucks does not make it. But whatever they're putting in there, it's the preservatives, the sugar, all that sort of stuff. And that's why we mistake something that's actually good for that trash because of the sugar.
Yeah, I think on that note, I think it was Subway that they lost some case where they legally weren't allowed to call their bread bread or something like that because the amount of sugar in it was it was like actually cake.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we basically the problem is that what we call bread is like part of it is kind of linguistic because like it's all just called bread, but the spectrum of what is defined as bread is so large. Like you could have something that's like, I don't know, sprouted seeds, got a ton of fiber, a ton of nutrients, and so it's digested pretty slowly. And then you could have something like Wonder Bread that is really not that different from like soda in terms of how quickly your body processes it and breaks it down.
Mm-hmm. When did you get into like the metabolic health? Because I'm sure that wasn't unless you went into like metabolic health economics. Like, was this always been something that you were interested in, or did this part of your minor, or where'd you get into that?
No, I'm a curious person, I think. And actually we noticed that I noticed that organically a number of our customers were diabetics. And that got me thinking more about that. And we have a lot of customers who are type 1 diabetics, type 2 diabetics, and then we have a couple who are epileptic diabetics. So you actually you go into epileptic shock if your blood sugar goes too high. And so I was thinking about that and I was like, wow, I didn't intend to make the product for this purpose, but because it is built on these kind of like timeless nutrition principles as a byproduct of that, it is very metabolically good for us to consume.
Yeah, that's got to help out with the motivation. So any temptation you have to like, oh, let's up the sugar and see if we can get more people, like that's awesome to have that reinforcement.
Yeah.
Have you read Outlive by Peter Attia or listened to any of his podcasts?
I've listened to a bunch of his podcasts. I think I have it on my bookshelf. Yeah, I have it right over there, but I haven't cracked it because I think it's the 400 pages or so has intimidated me. I just haven't set aside the time to do it.
I have the book. I listened to the book and then I listened to the podcast too, and it's great. And I don't know, when I was younger, I had kind of a passing, interest in that. But now as things become so much more real and you notice a difference in how you feel and you start to really fall in love with feeling good. And that's kind of the main thing. So you're like, your indulgences go down because you think, well, I'd rather feel really good than just this temporary indulgence in things. And sometimes the books come along at the right time and provide you with that understanding. I think it's very accessible. So he's clearly very knowledgeable, but it's accessible and you don't feel like he's lost in the weeds so much that you don't even know what's going on. So very applicable and very cool. I've liked that.
Okay. Well, I'm actually going on a plane tomorrow, so I'll take it with me.
Yeah, the whole idea of like a quick read, it's not really a quick read, but there's the font size isn't super small and there's some gaps in between the lines. And so it might be 400 or so pages, but it really feels more like a 300 word. It's not all crunched in there, but great. And that's a great listen too. So you can kind of stop and digest, but yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Anybody else that you're listening to, following, reading that's kind of helping in that ecosystem of health and food and things like that?
I'm kind of all over the map. Like right now, the last book that I bought is it's a statistical mechanics physics textbook that I'm reading right now. So nothing at all to do with metabolic health. So I jump around and I try to find like the things that I notice that are like similar patterns between the different subjects. So as I said, I'm just curious and I just kind of follow what my curiosity is pulling me to.
What is that book for? And like, how did you come upon it? That doesn't seem like it's on a top 10 Amazon read list and it's like for physics books, but.
No, it's definitely not. It's a graduate level textbook. I never even took a physics course, but I was just curious. I was just curious, and I ordered it and started going through it, and have been digesting it. And yeah, it's really enjoyable to kind of activate a part of my brain that usually is not that active, and to just explore a subject that I have no formal training in. And so I can just be like a kid and just like bounce around and just explore it.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
great. Do you think, like, from this experience in the bar space, do you think you're gonna like stay in this for the long term, or is it like have this but then also jump to something else? Some people juggle multiple entrepreneurial endeavors. Do you think that there's another entrepreneurial opportunity or another business you're going to run concurrently with this one?
I have, it's a great question. I have a lot of, as I've said a couple times, I'm a curious person. So I have a lot of different like interests. I actually started Atlas with the intent to really use it as like almost like a training ground, because I had no idea what was going to happen with it. And so I was like, well, I could just do this for my 20s. And instead of like going and paying a couple $100,000 to get a MBA from a university, I would basically do it for real and learn the hard way, all blood, sweat, and tears, all of that, and spend my 20s doing that. I just turned 30. So I spent, I think I've actually gotten like everything that I wanted to get from my Atlas experience, but I enjoy doing it. I wouldn't be ready to step away yet, but there are other things that I want to do. So I would either need to continue to figure out how to run and balance Atlas while I can do those other things, or yeah, just figure out what to do at that point. But as of right now, I'm still like before hopping on this call, it's 8 p.m. here, and I'm still just doing stuff for Atlas. So yeah, as of now, I'm still fully in.
Nice. Yeah, I think there's, I don't know if it's distrust, but something with serial entrepreneurs that start something and then just kind of get rid of it. And I see this mostly in like the outdoor space,
Mm,
hunting, fishing, whatnot, where someone will start something and it's okay, and then they just move on, and you don't have that lingering or that passion that stays with it, and it just started and then move on to the next thing. So you don't have the vested interest or the blood, sweat, and tears. It's mostly just idea, grow it a little bit, and then try to sell it. And I think that kind of undermines the product a little bit. If you don't believe in it to stay in it long term, then why should anybody believe in it?
do you think that makes it seem almost like a little, as a consumer, like almost a little hollow, because it feels like they're just doing this as a business venture and not because they actually care about whatever problem they're trying to solve with their products?
Yeah, and I think if you hear that it's this person again doing the new thing, I think that's when it's that reputation kind of stays with. And so, my buddy, he owned a CrossFit gym when I was teaching with him in California. So he was a teacher and then started the CrossFit gym. And then he's like, I love coffee. And so he started another business, Caffeine and Kilos. And so it was like, I like working out. I like drinking coffee. And so it was like, he just crushed that area. And now he was able to retire from teaching, but having those two things, and he's just all in with those two things. And he might have offshoot sort of things, but he's with those things, very dedicated. And he talks about how when people are buying a brand, they're buying you a lot and the lifestyle that comes with that. And so if you are dialed in, if you're all about it, then people are going to be all about it, because you're buying the lifestyle as much as you're buying the product. So the product is good. I like it, and I like it more than this other product because the people who are behind it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that you can sense that consumers, again, they might not be like aware of it, but you can sense like this product or this company doesn't have the same depth as another company. And the companies that do have it, they're known for it for a reason. Like Patagonia is a good example, where like that company has a lot of depth because the founder, Yvon Chouinard, like he imbued that spirit, like basically he imprinted that company with like his own philosophy.
Hmm.
And that depth, I think, is really what makes that company special. And you like compare that against some of these companies where somebody's just trying to make almost like a quick buck, and they're just trying to slap something together, be opportunistic. And there's not necessarily anything wrong with that, but I think the downside of that is that consumers can't tell that like it just it feels a little bit hollow.
Yeah. Yeah. Big companies that get like your spokespeople, like Steph Curry, maybe or maybe does not eat Subway or, drink Sprite or this or that, but you're getting that person. And or the Michael Jordan campaign with Gatorade was, wild and crazy. Michael Jordan drinks Gatorade, and so I should drink Gatorade too. It's like a subconscious. Am I like Jordan? Like, no, at all. I like basketball and I drink Gatorade, but that is it. That is where the comparison ends. So in the smaller niche markets, I think that is really important that you're it's a very relatable person because you don't have that same star power. You're not preying on people thinking they're going to be like Jordan because they have this or LeBron shoes or this or that. It's this person represents the type of lifestyle I want to lead, and I'm all about supporting this business.
Yeah, 100%. It's actually funny you mentioned Gatorade because that was one of the brands that I remember feeling almost like betrayed by because I picked up their protein bar and I remember turning it over. They have 20 grams of protein. And I was like, oh, cool. What they don't put on the front is that they have 29 grams of sugar.
Yeah.
And I was like, come on, like you spend God knows how much money on all of these athletes, convincing people that consuming your products is basically going to make them perform better, whatever, be more athletic. And how can you do that, but also create this product that Snickers bar, I think, has like 22 grams of sugar. So their bar literally has more sugar than Snickers bar in it. And it actually has more sugar than protein. So it's more accurate to call it a sugar bar than it is to call it a protein bar. So I remember like distinctly standing in a grocery store aisle looking at that and being just like, I was just like disappointed. It's like, come on.
Well, I think the original recipe for Gatorade was like electrolytes. What can we do to replace that? And now in the market, it's electrolytes are synonymous with sugar because even though it's not the right stuff that you need, and just bombarding people with sugar. Now the Gatorade wanted people to drink it nonstop, and so this is a better alternative to soda. So I'm going to drink more Gatorade because it tastes like Kool-Aid, and that's just the sugar. But you feel better about it. You don't feel like it's sugar; it's Gatorade. And then same thing with the bars and everything else. And then the different recipes they had. This is supposed to be better, or even like vitamin water. You look at vitamin water, think, oh, this is a better alternative to Gatorade, but all those things are so similar. And the same thing with the bars.
Yeah, 100%. It's just that's really where branding comes into play. Like Gatorade and soda are really just both sugar syrup, but drinking one of them you feel unhealthy. Drinking another one you feel like you're like an athlete. And
Right.
your body doesn't know branding. Your body just knows what you put into it, and whichever one you're drinking, it's just like you're putting sugar syrup into me.
So where'd you get the name?
I got the name because I took Latin for 8 years from like third grade to I think senior year in high school. And I was introduced to Greek mythology through that. And I liked the Nike story. So Nike was founded and was named after the Greek goddess of victory, Nike. And so I was like, oh, that's cool. I like that there's that underlying meaning to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cool word, Nike, but there's also this kind of like story to it. So I went to Greek mythology and I was like, well, what's available? And Atlas is the titan of endurance, holds the world on his shoulders. And I was like, oh, it's a cool name. It's like succinct. It is easy to remember and it has a cool underlying meaning. So I'll go with that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So in closing here, where can people find the bars? How can they order them? Well, how can people follow on social media? Give the pitch for all that.
Yeah, Atlas bars everywhere. So if you just Google Atlas bars, you'll either go to our website or our Amazon, and all of our socials are also Atlas. We're not in many retail stores right now. Lifetime Fitness nationwide is really the only kind of retail presence for us. So online is definitely the best bet. And yeah, appreciate the opportunity. It was great talking. And thanks for letting me share my story.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thanks for coming on here.